Hello and welcome to the video. In this video, what I'm going to try and do is explain a little bit about oracles. So I'm going to try and make a series of videos spotlighting the different elite units that you can take, what some of their good points are, what some of the bad points are. I'm by no means, the best player in the world, but in public games, I often see some players which show really good potential in terms of playing the game, but just because of the lack of game knowledge in terms of how to use elites, they're never going to get to that next level. So I thought if I could make some content and it helps one person, then that would be great. So elites, really, they're the units you take from the shop at 4 minutes. And it really is the key to getting to that next level. So I'm going to start with oracles, and we're going to go through what their uses are, some of their pros, cons, and their abilities. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow me on Twitch, which you can see in the description below. I do stream my clan pre-mades at 6 PM GMT every Sunday. Thanks very much. So what are oracles and what are their uses? So they are, and I've got my notes on here, but they are basically an MVP in terms of they can both farm well, and also they can be an anti-elite, anti-hero elite, if that makes sense. So they can stop other heroes, stop other elites. They've got some really useful abilities. So I think we'll go over the abilities first. So the first one is Pulsar Beam. So if I have a look down here, so it says the Oracle's attack burn 1%. Let me click on it. Oracle attack burn 1% of the target's maximum and light and shield per hit. Each attack consumes 6 energy. So again, it consumes energy, but it does, depending on how much HP the unit's got, it can take down more. So something good about that. Something with shields, again, it's going to drain shields, which is nice. Something you'll also find later on in the game, they can be really good against ultimate heroes who have got a lot of HP, a lot of shield, things like Dark Archons. They can also be really good against things like Ultralists. So ultra late game, Ultralists are so tanky. And if you get all in, with an Ultralisk army, it can be game over. So having oracles is really important. Now, as I said before, there are 2 upgrades. I'll go through those in a moment. We'll just hit the abilities first. So that's its main ability. That is present depending on which upgrade path you take. So the second ability is Phase Shift on a 30-second cooldown. So after half a second delay, the Oracle teleports forward 8 units. Now, I'm not quite sure how the measurement works in terms of 8 units, but it's a really big blink. So it's a really good way to escape from enemy units. So things that it has problems with, like Thors and things like that. Battle Cruiser Yamato cannons. If you get a Yamato cannon, if that's charging up, you can use that to blink away. So it's a really good safety feature that keeps the Oracle safe. You can also use it offensively as well. So say if there's a ghost running away from you and you're starting to drain it, but you're not quite there, you can just blink in, obviously if there's no other units around, and try and snipe that before going away. So that's really good. And the third one is Revelation. So on a 3-second cooldown, does exactly what you expect it to do. It causes enemy units within the target area to grant vision for 20 seconds. So it puts a Revelation icon above the units it hits, like you're seeing on the screen there, and it detects that. I did actually lose an Oracle there to a Ghost, but yeah, that's what it does. So it's really good against seeing what's in an enemy base. It's good against cloaked units, so against ghosts, burrowed units like lurkers, hunter killers, infestors, and things like that. So it allows you to maybe, in an advanced move, you could put down a Revelation and then snipe a Fester hidden in the army and things like that. Again, it's really good. It does take quite a bit of energy, not as much as Phase Shift. And again, that will depend on what upgrade you take, because the second upgrade, Supremacy, is very much more energy hungry than Induction. So let's talk about the 2 different upgrade paths. So the first one is Induction, and it turns it into a more of a farming farming machine with highest capabilities, because it gives you more regen, so you can use the phase shift more often, and also the main attack of the Oracle costs less, so that it can be dealing damage more over time. So let's have a look at the induction there. So it's worth noting it costs 200, so the upgrades are 200. The oracles themselves cost 200 each, so with a full investment, including the upgrade, so 3 oracles and an upgrade, it's a total of 800. 2, 4, 6, 800. Yeah. So let's read it. So induction improves the oracle's energy manipulation capabilities by reducing the energy cost of pulsar beam by 2. Okay, so it reduces the amount of energy it costs to actually attack. It also grants 50 energy, so from 250 to 300 energy, so you get that maximum energy. Also increases the energy regeneration rate, and it also has a minus 0.15 attack speed. Now that's not making the attack speed worse, because the way attack speed works in StarCraft is it'll have an attack speed value, and that value is how long before in between each attack. So on here you can see the weapon speed is 0.75. Obviously that's 0.75 a second per attack. So obviously if it's reducing that by 0.15, that's reducing it to an attack every half a second. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So yeah, that's going to make it better for farming. You can see they are quite, as you can see there, they can be quite slippery and they can get away, but they are quite fragile, so it's something you've got to be careful of. But induction is my favourite way to play oracles. So let's talk a bit about supremacy. So supremacy is, unlike induction, which is more of a farmer, this is more of a specific tool for getting rid of other elites and heroes. So again, my personal opinion is to use induction, because I feel like, especially if you're a newer player, you want to get the maximum cost effectiveness, because you're going to be spending a lot of your early game money on it. Let's read it out anyway. So improves the oracle's pulsar beam, causing it to slow enemies by 25% when attacking. Now that 25% is absolutely massive. You imagine that you've got a ghost on your cliff trying to snipe you, you spot it, and then it's trying to run away, and it can't EMP you because it disables abilities, so that's really good. And also it's slow by 25%, so unless they've got a recall, they're pretty much dead. And then of course you can spam a revelation to make sure that he doesn't cloak. Although if he's already uncloaked, he won't be able to recloak because it blocks abilities. So really, really good. Good against fleeing colossi as well. So because it slows them so much, you can burn through that HP really quickly and shield on the colossus, and it can't turn around and stun you, which is really good. So plus 1% life burn and shield burn. So again, it burns through that life and shield much quicker. Plus 1.5 attack speed. So the attack speed is reduced. So that's something to bear in mind. It does reduce your attack speed because it's going to be dealing so much more damage. So yeah, as I said, my personal opinion is to go for the induction, but that gives you a good idea of what supremacy does. So let's go over, we've seen what the abilities do and what the different upgrade paths are used for. So let's talk a little bit about, in general, the pros and cons of picking oracles as your elite. So I think pros, we'll start with pros. It's good versus general heroes. So again, even without the supremacy upgrade, the induction deals, because it deals the life and shield burn, it does eat through heroes fairly quickly. With supremacy, again, even better. It's good versus other elites, so it can burst down things like reapers very, very quickly. Really, really good. It's obviously got detection, so you can throw down revelation, good against DTs, lurkers, festers, ghosts, versus observers as well, because the observers tend to sort of move to the front of the army if they're not microed separately. So whilst you're fighting, like you see here, if there was an observer, you could throw down a revelation if you had energy, and you could see it and step forward with your army. So it's really good. It's good against army, so again, taking the induction gives you plenty of energy to just keep plugging away, and you'll often find, as is with the goal with all elites, you need to try and keep them alive to make them cost effective. But if you have them still alive later on in the game, you'll find they'll pretty much always be full energy. And that brings me on to the next positive, is late game, they're actually one of the only elites that are still very, very useful. They're really great for taking towers in sudden death and things like that, and just poking around, giving visibility. You can place them on your cliffs to give early warning against drops and things like that. They're really, really good, and they're easy to keep alive, which is the next thing. They've got a great escape mechanism. That blink, the phase shift, should make them pretty much invincible. In this game, I lose them. In other games, you know, you're bound to lose them, but if you're quick and if you're smart, there's always an escape as long as you've got energy, again, which is something Induction helps with. So against Thors, so when you're going against Thors, if he starts to fire a volley against you, which is probably going to happen here, I knew I was safe there, but you can just blink away. Same with battlecruiser Yamato cannons, you can blink away. Ghost snipes if ghosts getting close and things like that. So really, really good, useful escape mechanism. It's great for harassing as well. So going up to an enemy's like mercenary compound and then just like eating into the units from there. It forces them either to build a tower or they might try and save you. Okay, let's run through some of the cons or some of it, the threats to going Oracle. So the first one I'd say, they're not cheap. Like any elite, they're not cheap. I'm specifically not using the word expensive because I think they're very cost effective. If you compare them to other air elites like Banshees or Ravens, I think for what you get, they're very, very cost effective, especially if you're going Induction and you're farming with them. So, but they're not cheap, and it's worth mentioning. They are very fragile, so they can get burst down really quickly, which is, again, one of the reasons why you have that escape mechanism of the phase shift. But all it takes is like a bunch of Goliaths like microed forward into your army, and their missiles will eat them. So that's worth knowing. So they're unforgiving when mismicroed. So again, in the heat of things, especially if you haven't got things hotkeyed properly, you can often find yourself, if you're not confident with them, accidentally blinking. You can see I blinked out there. This is one of the escape mechanism working, the phase shift. But what you can find yourself is phase shifting in all different directions if you don't quite press it right. And the thing is, it's so unforgiving because if you go on top of an army, they're basically all dead, and that can be really, really expensive if you've just spent 600, maybe perhaps plus the 200 for upgrading them, and to buy them again at 200 each is very expensive. So that's just worth noting. So some of the threats as well are Goliaths are very good against them. Any sort of units in medevacs, so medevacs can boost in and drop on top of them. I love doing that. It's so satisfying to do, but it's something you've got to watch out for. Thors can be good against them. Again, you have got your phase shift, and the same with Ghosts. Ghosts can be good against them, but equally they can be good against Ghosts, especially with Supremacy. But it's just worth noting, they're not good if you're facing air, because obviously, you know, you imagine a Mutamass. Yes, you can always blink away and bits and pieces, but in general, they're not very good when you're going against an air mass. They can't attack buildings. That's just one slight negative of it. They can't break down rocks, it's just worth noting. And the energy is expensive with Supremacy, so the attacks are energy based, so that is one of the downsides. So hopefully you've understood some of the pros, cons, and the abilities and how to use it. Again, I'll just quickly recap. You can either use it as a farming elite or an anti-elite, an anti-hero elite, depending on your preference. As I say, my preference recommendation would be to take Induction and just micro them carefully. It's worth noting that you should always have them, in my opinion, well, you should always have them on a separate hotkey so that you can pull out the danger if you need to and blink them, phase shift, keep calling and blink. It's essentially the same thing, isn't it? You can phase shift them out if necessary. Again, I just want to point out some very, very specific points where you would need oracles. taking the tower in late game is very good, but specifically if your enemy is going for heavily armored ultralisks, is the only way to start burning through that HP would be that. So if you're in like a high level pre-made, or you find yourself in a public lobby where the enemy has got a lot of mass, maybe temple lot of marines, and then they're building like a double ultralisk with frenzy, both you and your ally, to survive, will need to get oracles, preferably with supremacy if you haven't already got it, but just oracles are really good. And make sure when they all in and attack your base, you target firing those oracles. Target firing the ultralisks. So ghosts, novas, and oracles are really the only thing that can counter those ultra late game. So I hope you have fun with it, and hopefully I'll be doing some more Elite series. And if you've got any questions or any advice that you might have, anything you think I'm wrong about, then post it in the description below. I'd love to see your comments on it. Thanks very much for watching, and again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and you can watch me stream on Twitch. Thank you very much.